You know how most people still think Tesla is just another EV company or that Elon meme stock? There is a much bigger story we're going to talk about today. Tesla is really a stealth AI and robotics play inside a full-on US-China robotics race. Picture this. You get picked up by a self-driving Tesla that you don't own. You walk into work and a humanoid robot is unloading boxes, maybe even handing you your coffee. Both machines running on the same Tesla brains. That sounds sci-fi-ish, but it's really not. The pieces are already moving. Today, I'm connecting the dots the mainstream kinda misses. The real US robotics strategy taking shape right now, what's confirmed and what's still a rumor, and exactly where Tesla fits in. At the end of the show, I'll pull up the charts and do a technical analysis and show you my next two price targets going into early next year. A quick reminder, this is not financial advice, so please do your own research. Number 1, how we got here. Let's start with the boring government part, but we're going to keep it short. In 2025, the Trump administration rolled out America's AI Action Plan. Basically, a big federal roadmap for AI. Think education, workforce, and research. It built on earlier AI executive orders about training Americans for high-skill, tech-heavy jobs. Fast forward a little bit and something interesting happens. They pivot from talking about AI in the cloud to talking very specifically about robots in the real world. Suddenly, robotics is being framed as critical for bringing manufacturing back into the US, for staying competitive with China, and national security. Chapter 1 was AI, but Chapter 2 is putting that AI into robots. That's when Tesla stops looking like just a car company to Washington. On to our second point. While DC was drafting PDFs about AI, the robotics industry basically pulled the fire alarm. Trade groups and companies including Tesla, Boston Dynamics, and a couple others started showing up and saying, if the US doesn't take robotics seriously, we're going to lose both the robotics race and the AI race. So an organization called the Association for Advanced Automation flat out warned that without a national robotics strategy, the US will fall behind not just in robots, but in AI as well. They're thinking of something kind of like the CHIPS Act, but for robots instead of chips. And on top of that, policy think tanks are writing memos to the National Robotics Strategy. They're recommending a formal US robotics strategy led by the White House. AI-enabled factories for defense and manufacturing, and big pushes into autonomous vehicles, and also the applications in agriculture, energy, and more. So this isn't just some YouTuber conspiracy. There is a real active push to turn robots from a cool demo into national infrastructure. Now, point number 3, China. The reason everyone's suddenly obsessed with robots. Why all the urgency, you may ask? Well, here's a quick picture. China already has 3 to 4 times more industrial robots than the US. And we're talking industrial only. We're not talking about necessarily humanoid robots. China has by far the most operational industrial robots, like 1.5 plus million stock versus in the US, about a third of that. And this is from a 2025 report. Now, what Beijing has been explicit about is making embodied intelligence and humanoid robots a national strategic priority in something they call the 14th five-year plan extension. Over 100 Chinese companies are building humanoids right now. You have Xiaomi, BYD, and a couple others I could get into if you guys are interested. I could even make a video about Tesla versus competitors in robotics. I'm thinking about that one. It's gotten so heated that China's own economic planners had to tell companies, you're all building the exact same robot. This is actually turning into a bubble. And here's a translation. China is pretty far ahead, but their biggest problem is duplication. So from Washington's point of view, the fear is kind of simple. If China dominates both the robot bodies and AI brains, they dominate the future of manufacturing, logistics, and maybe even defense applications. Which leads us straight to Tesla. Now, before I go on, I just want to let you guys know this channel is barely 3 months old. So if you are liking this content so far, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and help me grow this channel so I can keep providing more of this content. Earlier this year, Tesla was invited to a robotics symposium on Capitol Hill to show lawmakers its Optimus humanoid robot. This wasn't like, hey, cool product launch. It was more along the lines of, here's what American robots can do while we talk about the competition going on outside. These aren't toys, these are strategic assets. So picture this scene. You've got members of Congress, staffers, lobbyists, national security people, all standing in a room on the Hill, watching an Optimus robot from Tesla, some robots from Boston Dynamics, and a bunch of other US companies. And their entire vibe is like, these are not toys, these are actually strategic assets. Tesla can walk in and say, we're not eliminating workers, we're upgrading them so American factories can beat Chinese factories. That sells to both national security hawks and swing state voters. So when you hear Tesla Optimus went to DC, don't think it's a marketing stunt. Think it's an audition for a role in America's robotics playbook. Now we go on to point number 5. What's confirmed versus what's rumor? On the confirmed side of the story, we've got a pretty solid backbone already. The White House has a formal AI action plan and has already used executive orders to push AI education and future of work training. The administration is now openly framing robotics as a key to bringing manufacturing back to the US and competing with China. Commerce is meeting with robotics CEOs and saying it's pretty much all in. Federal budgets are quietly doubling, robotics-related spending, and big-name companies like Tesla are publicly calling for a national robotics strategy. On the rumor, or early signal side, the story gets a little bit spicier. You have policymakers that keep hinting at a possible 2026 executive order focused specifically on robotics. And this kind of brings us back to an earlier idea. Think of chip-style tax credits for companies that deploy robots in US factories. Now, if you have mixed feelings about all of this, I bet you're not alone. That kind of brings us to point number 6. The side narratives, jobs, voters, and what they call the man plus machine pitch. Whenever robots come up, so does the fear. Are these things going to take everyone's job and leave us streaming Netflix? Even some US officials are nervous that too much automation could kill the whole manufacturing jobs revival. The 800-pound gorilla in the room is jobs. So the messaging from pro-robotics side has shifted to robots augment workers, they don't replace them. Let robots do the dangerous, boring stuff. Let humans do the higher skill tasks. So if you have some Tesla, understand that you actually own a company that already ships millions of AI brains and chips a year in their full self-driving computers, and that processing could be harnessed. They have gigafactories ready to produce robotic parts and bodies at a cost nobody else can match once the manufacturing ramps up to a mass level. The US is clearly moving from talking about AI to deploying AI inside physical machines as a way to stay competitive and bring production back home. On the Tesla side, if we do get a real national robotics strategy. We get some executive orders, tax breaks. Tesla is standing right where the policy money and the attention want to go. Will it play out perfectly? I don't think so. You're going to see delays, you're going to see over-promising, you're going to see policy fights, and probably at least one news cycle of we overhyped robots, it's a bubble. But if you can zoom out, the direction is clear. China's betting big on robots, and the US is making sure they have an answer to it. All right, guys, now we are in the charts. So what I want to show you is price action the past couple days and where I think it's going to go. Now, if you were following my videos the past couple days, I mentioned that we have these EMAs, these 3 lines here that have curved up, and we have gotten above it. We had a pullback, and then I said there's a possibility to move upwards on one condition. That one condition was we have this red line here, which is a point of control, and this needs to be taken out. And once we close decisively above it, we should see more movement to the upside. So what happened yesterday is I opened a position sometime in the beginning of the day here, and today it just gapped and continued upwards. Now, I had also mentioned in my video that we have something called a call wall at $450. Now, what is a call wall? It's when you have a lot of calls stacked at a certain price, and what it can do is it can pull it upwards towards the price and reject off of it sometimes. So what I said is just, if it rejects, it could take a little bit of time to get up through the top. Now, what happened today is we actually peaked right above it. We pulled back to it, and then we went up a little bit more. And to see that, we're going to move over to a smaller time frame. So looking here at the 15-minute, this is today's chart. So we had this, nice stair step, and then we kind of flatlined for a little bit, and it looked like things were maybe going to roll over because we weren't getting more momentum, and then it went back up to the top, and then it closed above this zone from earlier in the day. So that to me signaled a very strong close on Tesla today, and I think it has some room to play up to 490. That is my first target. Now, how did I calculate this 490? This is based on 2 pieces of information. The first thing is you could do a Fibonacci extension that'll give you kind of a rough spot where it could go. So if we draw it this way and then we come back down to the pullback, you kind of get these zones that you can use. So it's kind of shifted a little bit, but right now it's kind of still close to that $490 to $500 area. Another thing about the $490 area is that we also have a bunch of calls up here on the options side, and people are stacking up there for 490 to about 500. Also, in yesterday's video, I mentioned that on the options flow, which is where you can see a lot of the big transactions, and you can try to spot big players with lots of money. Sometimes they're institutions. It kind of gives you a hint of what these big players are doing. I saw this Tesla print for something like $13 million of options. Now, if you don't know what options are, they are leveraged instruments. They give you about 100 contracts of a stock that you control, and depending on when this contract expires, you can make more leverage or less leverage. To see a print of like $13 million of options, that signals very strong conviction. And I checked today, and it doesn't seem that they've unloaded any of that position. And they also had a pretty high target on it too, which I found surprising. So, like I was saying, my first target is 490 right here, and my second target would be around 520. So the way I'm playing it is I am going to start scaling out gradually. Every time it hits a target, take a little bit off, and until you have like just a little portion. If it pulls back against you, you can close out the whole position. Now, I do swing trade, but I also do long-term investment. This part of the video is to let you know what's happening in the short term. So when you start getting candles chopping all over the place, you're not trying to guess what's happening. Also, if you zoom out a little bit more, and we're going to need the weekly for this, you can see this yellow trend line here. We have 1 point, a second point of contact, and then when we get up here, we could face a little bit of resistance. It doesn't have to roll over, but there is resistance there. That is the roughly 509 to 520, 530 area. So we still got a little bit of room before that happens. So you guys tell me in the comments, what are your expected targets for Tesla into January? Also, will we get a national robotics strategy for 2026? And if we do, does Tesla become really impossible to bet against? If you guys like this big picture view and you feel like this video was helpful, subscribe if you want more like this.